I want to talk to you today about cars. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there, especially if you're watching this video, you're probably ahead of most people, right? You're probably not paying insane amounts of interest on a car note. You're probably not financing a car for 8 or 9 or 10 years. You're probably not going out and spending 60, 70, $80,000 on a car you don't need, right? That's probably not you. But still, I really hope that my opinions today can potentially help some people out there, but also I just want to talk to get this off my chest. I have some stuff I want to talk about and some topics I want to talk about on cars today in our culture and just where we're at in the year 2026 that I think are pretty crazy for some of these. And also, some of these topics, I just want to say some things that may help someone out there or things that I think if you do, you're potentially better off, right? So let's get into it. At number one, looking at the payment or the interest rate over the total price of the car. Now, what I mean is, I think too many people focus on what is my payment going to be, right? They don't care about what the interest rate is. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. They don't care about, especially about the overall price of the car. Sometimes they don't even pay attention to it. They just sign the documents, right? They don't care if it's for 5 years or 8 years, right? They simply don't care. And that's a problem. The main thing you should be focused on, in my opinion, is the price of the car, the overall price that you're paying for the car. And after that, if you're financing it, then you should be worried about what's my interest rate. I mean, obviously, yes, you should be able to afford the month to month payment, but in all honesty, that shouldn't really be as big of a worry for you. Now, I still think that having no car payment is perfect, but I'd be a hypocrite if I said that. I have financed a car. But I think there are certain ways you can do it right by putting, say, at least 20% down, not financing it for any longer than 4 years, right? These are great principles. And also keeping that monthly payment 10% or less of your monthly take home. And I think you'll be fine. Now, I know that can be challenging for some people. Not everybody makes a ton of money, right? 10% of your take home pay for some people could be $1,000 a month. For some people, 500, for some people, even less, right? Everybody is in different brackets. But you just have to find what works for you. You can find a used, reliable car out there. I'll get into this on a later topic in this video, but not everybody needs a 40 or $50,000 car, which the average new car price is 50,000, and I believe the average used car price now is 24, 25,000, something like that. Not everybody needs a new car. And not everybody needs a fancy used car. There are plenty of great vehicles out there in the 20,000 range or less, in the teens sometimes. I drive around, and I know I've said this many times on many of my videos, but I drive around in a $3,000 car. It gets me from point A to point B, and I'd much rather save on the insurance and on not having a car payment or just having to worry about an expensive car right now at the stage I'm at in my life. I love cars. One day I would like to have another sports car, something in a manual, but it's just not in my cards right now. And I'm more focused on being financially stable and financially secure than, say, having a $900 a month car payment on a really cool car that after a few months, honestly, the hype will probably just die down for me. Second, and this is what I was talking about that I want to get into, this is not really, say, any advice or anything like this, but you do not need a Denali. You do not need an Escalade. I am so tired of seeing people on social media and online that have one kid or even two kids and they need a Denali, they need a Yukon, right? They need an Escalade. There's nothing wrong with getting a minivan or even having a sedan or a station wagon. I don't know what happened to station wagons. I think some station wagons are really cool. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, right? If you have two kids, one or two kids, you do not need more than a sedan or a station wagon. If you don't have enough room, most vehicles you can get a roof rack and you can figure it out. I think a lot of people can do this. When I was growing up, my parents only had sedans. It was fine. They had plenty of space, and I played a couple of sports. It's okay. They had enough room. They figured it out. They made it work. They didn't have brand new big SUVs. But I feel like in today's society, everyone has an SUV of some sorts. And it's like if you don't have an SUV, you're nothing. But you don't have to be like everyone else. And if you have more than two kids, I will agree, you probably do need something bigger than a sedan. But you still don't need a Denali or an Escalade. You could find a used, say, Tahoe or Honda Pilot or something like that. And if those are too expensive, you can go the minivan route. I'm sure you can find a good used minivan in the low 20s, high teens, something like that. I just think too many people nowadays just go out there and they try to justify having a giant SUV on the road that gets terrible gas mileage. They complain about the gas mileage, even though if you're spending $80,000, $90,000 on an SUV, gas mileage really shouldn't bother you because you should be making a ton of money. But the problem is, a lot of those people aren't. They don't make Denali money. They make Honda Odyssey money, but they don't want to say it. And that's okay. That's for majority of people. A lot of us make Honda Odyssey money. But at the end of the day, you've got to decide what you can afford, what you can feasibly afford. And to me, I would much rather be driving around in a Honda Odyssey or just a regular old sedan and be able to be financially secure and stay in my home, right? I don't have to worry about losing my home because of a $900 a month SUV payment, or I have to forego my kids doing something like, I'm just throwing this out there, but let's say summer camp because I can't afford it because of my $900 Denali payment. So I would much rather sacrifice having a super cool SUV fully loaded up for my children and for my future to be financially secure, right? That's just me. Thirdly, thinking that anything that isn't brand new is a hoopty. Now, I feel like I've seen this on a lot of other channels, especially like Caleb Hammer and stuff like that. The biggest thing I hear is safety, right? All these people are like, well, I had to get a new car because of the safety. I don't know, like cars didn't just stop being safe. A car that's 10 years old from 2016 is not unsafe. Even a car from 2006 is not unsafe. Sure, they have newer features and stuff like that, but especially the difference between a 2016 and a 2026 is not that much different. They're almost probably identical in safety. So the argument of I had to get a newer car for safety to me is pretty silly. Now, also on top of that, looking at a 10-year-old car and saying it's a hoopty is pretty wild to me. There's some really cool cars out there that you could find in the low to mid 20s, maybe even the teens, that are definitely not hoopties and that have been well taken care of and probably don't even have that high of miles on them. So I don't know why in society it's gotten to the point where people say oh, well, I don't want to drive a hoopty. I don't want to drive a beat up, broken up car, right? When a 10-year-old car is not a hoopty. A 15, 20, $25,000 car is not a hoopty. Now, my car, I would say, is a hoopty. It's a 2003 Ford Crown Vic that I gave 3 grand for. That I would call a hoopty. But other than that, I wouldn't really call many cars a hoopty unless you're looking at something that's like early 2000s and older and was like under 5,000 bucks. So it just kind of irks me when people say I had to get a new car for safety or I had to get a new car because I don't want to be driving around in a hoopty. And also, you really shouldn't care that much about what you're driving around in if you're worried about what it looks like. I mean, as long as it's safe, right? As long as it's, semi decent, then it shouldn't really matter. As long as it gets you from point A to point B reliably and safely. Fourth topic on this video I want to go over is embrace driving an older car. Again, I kind of touched on this on my last topic, but don't worry about what you drive. Don't worry about what the Johnsons across the street think about that you have an older car parked in your driveway. Who cares, right? I certainly don't care that if they have a brand new Bronco or Denali parked in their driveway. Sure, do I think it's cool? Yeah. You know what's not cool? A $1,200 a month SUV payment. Not really cool to me. I'd much rather be able to take a portion of that money and invest it into my retirement so I can be financially secure, so I can be financially stable, so I don't have to worry about things as I get older. I'd much rather take part of that payment and save it in a savings account so I can buy my next car for cash and I don't have to make car payments, right? Or take part of that money and save it and go on a vacation, right? I don't want to be tied down and can't do things because of a car payment, right? I mean, how terrible would that be that, let's just say, my family wanted to go on a trip in a year, but I can't. I'm so strapped for cash, I have nowhere to save any money. And I have $1,200 a month, just an example. It could be 900, it could be 600, it could be 1,500, but I have $1,200 a month going to the truck payment to look cool to take my kids to school or to show up to work, right? I'd much rather have that money to be able to make memories, to be able to do things with my family, to be able to save for my future. There's so many opportunities I could find to do with that money versus having a vehicle. Not to mention the gas mileage some of these vehicles get, and on top of that, the insurance, because insurance companies have to insure those massive, massive vehicles that cost a ton. I'm hoping to put this in the video somewhere, and so I'm not wrong, but I'll have to fact check it. But I'm pretty sure the MSRP of a new Denali is somewhere around $79,000. I mean, insurance has to look at that, and they're gonna have to cover it if it's totaled. So yeah, insurance is probably gonna be crazy on that. I just want to leave y'all with some advice. Do whatever you want. Sometimes life is short, but on average, we're all probably going to live to be pretty old. So I think you should definitely save for your future, save for your retirement. Me personally, I want to be financially stable, financially secure, financially independent, and not have to worry in my older age. But if you can afford a cool car, you can afford that car payment. If you can put 20% down and only finance for 4 or 5 years, and it's the payment is like 10% of what you make per month, go ahead, do it. I mean, if that's really where you want your money to go. But I definitely don't think if you're having a family, don't try to justify having a kid or even 2 kids that you need an Escalade or a Denali, right? You can find better options. They're definitely out there, and don't use safety, as some type of weird bargaining thing to try to convince yourself that's why I need to have a brand new $90,000 SUV. Just know you can go out there, you can shop around, you can find good deals, and there are still good cars to be had around the $20,000 range, give or take some, right? At the end of the day, just love your family, love your neighbor, love yourself, and I hope everybody has a great life.